I thought.
Hi, Mr. Jennings. Could you talk to us real quick?
Very quickly.
Okay. Thank you for taking the time.
No problem.
How are you feeling about what you have to do today?
Well, obviously, I feel badly about the fact that I didn't do my due diligence, didn't do what I was supposed to do as it relates to my ethics report. The whole situation's been unfortunate from the beginning. I've moved on with my life and will continue to do that. I've cooperated with the investigators from the outset and will continue to do that as well. So just going to abide by the sentence of the court and go back to Youngstown and go back to work.
Leo, what are you doing now?
I'm doing freelance marketing, consulting, and freelance writing.
And the explanation was you're sort of shell-shocked from everything that was going on?
Well, when I filled out that ethics report, my whole world had just collapsed, and so I'd been fired, knew I wasn't going to come back to work for the state. It's not an excuse, it's just what the situation was at the time, and filed the report and really didn't think twice about it, to tell you the truth. The second charge really was basically a misunderstanding. I mean, I sought advice of external and internal counsel as to whether or not I could work for Danforth, Ohio while I was employed by the state. I was told that I could, as long as I did not do political work on state time. And I think those of you who knew me knew that I never did that. In fact, if I would get a call dealing with a political issue while I was in the office, I'd walk out of the office and call on the phone that was paid for by the campaign. So if one of the two lawyers that I consulted with, including the ethics counsel in the office, had said, you can't do that, or had rejected my supplemental employment form, I wouldn't have faced a second charge. Again, though, ultimately it's my responsibility, and I took that this morning, and as I said, I just plan to go back home and go back to work.
And who authorized the payments?
Well, the payment, I mean, clearly the payments were authorized by Danforth, Ohio committee because I was doing probably 25 or 30 hours a week in political work for the campaign. I said to the then Attorney General, and he agreed that I deserved to be paid for that work if legal counsel said it was permissible. And I was told that it was, and so that's why I accepted the pay.
Dan affirmatively said you're authorized to receive these payments? Well,
what he said was, I'll pay you if the counsel signs off on it, which they did. So that was always the caveat on it. So I only accepted the payments after legal counsel said it was permissible to do so. And again, I never did any, and there's no allegation that I ever did any political work while I was on state time, because I just didn't. It just wasn't something that I did. But at the time I was working about 60 hours a week in the office, another 20 to 25 on the campaign, and I just felt that I deserved to be compensated for it.
You've agreed to cooperate with prosecutors on any future investigation. Do you anticipate, based on what you know, that Marc Dann is either in the clear or may himself face?
I'm not going to speculate on that, James. I have no idea what the investigators know or think they know, and I've spoken to them a number of times. I've always answered their questions truthfully. I always will, and that's what I've done from day one, from the first time that I walked into a room and talked to the investigators. And I'll continue to answer any questions that they have and answer them truthfully and tell them what they want to know if I know it, and tell them that I don't if I don't.
Do you think you would be here today if there weren't larger problems that the office faced?
Well, of course. I mean, obviously, the problems with Mr. Gutierrez and then Attorney General Dann precipitated all of this. I think one thing that's really unfortunate, and maybe someday in retrospect someone, it may even be me, could talk about the really good things that were done in that office that were derailed by some unfortunate personal choices that were made. If you look at what's going on, it's especially pertinent right now with the banking regulation bill in Congress. I wrote a speech that Mark gave at the City Club in 2007, 2.5 years ago, where he laid out quite clearly that the nation was headed for very serious problems because the referees had been pulled out of the game as it relates to the big banks and the investment houses. Our office was the first in the country to file an action against a predatory lender. Our office was the first in the country to drag the ratings agencies in to talk about their role in rating what were basically junk bonds based on bad mortgages as AAA securities. So I think one of the really unfortunate things is that the great work that was done in the office has been submerged beneath what's happened at a personal level.
Can you talk about the ODP consulting, what you did for them and why the payments came? Was it like the following year?
Well, I did the work in 2006, and I did a lot of work for the statewide. We basically ran kind of a coordinated campaign with Mark and Barbara Sykes, so I worked with her. State Party was appreciative of the work that I did because I was also consumed with Mark's campaign at the same time. So again, there's really no allegation that I didn't earn the money because I did. Quite frankly, I'm good at what I do, and so I was paid for it. So it was consulting work. The party, it's a public record, and quite frankly, I didn't check it, and I should have, or I would have listed it. So that's just what it gets to.
And what's your relationship with Marc Dann today?
I don't really have one. I think I may have spoken to Mark 3 or 4 times in the past year and a half or so. He's doing what he's doing, and I'm trying to do what I do.
What's Cromwell and Company?
Cromwell and Company is a design firm, and they designed the invitations for the inaugural ball that Rich Cordray, Mark, and Jennifer Bruner had, and I received a commission because I wrote those invitations, and then as they were produced, and I got a commission from that. I actually wasn't working in the office then. That predated my employment in the office.
Did you sign the checks for Gutierrez from the transition account?
No, I didn't have signature authority for the transition account.
Who did?
David Beatrice, Attorney David Beatrice, was in charge of the transition account.
And so if you wanted to get money, who did you have to get the approval from?
Well, the process was that if you were entitled to a reimbursement or a payment from the transition account, that you would submit a receipt and a check would be written. And basically, Attorney Beatrice just, if a receipt came in, he paid it. Or if he was told to write a check, he wrote it. And that was really his role in the transition account.
Do you know who authorized the loan, so as it's been called, to Gutierrez?
I'm not gonna talk about that because I think that's a subject of investigation. So I'm really not gonna comment on that right now. Responsibility for the mistakes that I made. I accept the judgment of the court, and I'm just ready to abide by the sentence and then get on with my life.
Anything you'd like to tell the citizens? Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry for the fact that I did not do my due diligence when I filled out my ethics report. I should have. Everyone should, and so I pled guilty to that because I did not fill it out correctly.